Today we're going to be installing a undertail section on a Honda CBR 1000RR. This particular bike is a 2008. This model with this configuration undertail is a 2008-2009 model. Beyond 2009, from 2010 and up, they have this undertail section in two pieces where the fender will actually come off and you're left with a piece like this minus this closeout plate that we offer. So for this particular bike, we're going to be installing this entire section. It comes with a pre-installed closeout, and this is actually a genuine Honda part. We get this from Honda. We install our closeout, and we ship these just like you see here. Alright, so to begin the installation process, we will need to remove this whole fender and undertail assembly. Step one will be to remove the seats. To remove the driver's seat, you will first need to remove the shroud that is right below it. This shroud is held on by a friction fastener in the center and also a hinge point here. So you'll need to pry away from the frame and then rotate around this axis, and it's free to come out. See, here is your friction fastener. It needs to come out of this, and here's your hinge point. We will do this to the other side as well. And now we can unscrew the seat. This is the screw on this side. It also has a screw on the other side. You don't need to remove this, just the rear one. Let's go over to the other side. And now your seat's free to come out. Lift it out like this. Now you'll need to remove the tail section. This is done by removing these four fasteners. When you've taken out the fasteners, your tail section has some freedom to move. Let's go on the bottom here. If you pull back on the tail section, it will actually come out of these tabs here, and you can free it from the rest of the undertail. Be careful not to break these tabs. Do the same on the other side. Okay. Now this part's pretty delicate. What you want to do is stretch the fairing to the outside of the subframe enough to free it, but you don't want to crack it. So you'll need to be very careful with that. And put it to the side. The next step will be to loosen this whole sub tray assembly here, so we can have access to a couple of the screws that are behind it. So to do that, we will need to take these push fasteners and reset them into themselves and push them out of the bottom. Definitely want to have your hand underneath to catch it, otherwise it'll fall down deep into the bike and you'll spend a lot of time looking for it. Do that to both sides. Okay. Now you'll need to remove your fuse panel. Right to the rear of the fuse panel, there's a little clip. You can take a flathead screwdriver, pry on the clip, and it's free to come out. Once you remove this, there's a Phillips head screw right here that you'll need to take out. Now you'll need to free the back portion of your sub tray from right under the seat clip. And you have to be very delicate with this as well, because you need to flex it away without cracking it. You have a lot of play here to work with, so use that. This side's free. Now this is free. There are two more Phillips head screws right here. There's one right here and one right here. Those will need to come out now. You can gain good access to this screw on the left side of the bike by putting the screwdriver through this hole in the sub tray. And now you just unscrew that Phillips head. And on the other side, there's a similar hole right here. Do the same. Cut. Now that you've loosened the two Phillips head screws under the sub tray, you will need to remove them. If you don't have a magnetic tip screwdriver, best idea is to remove them using a magnetic retractor. That way you don't end up losing them in your sub tray. Here they are. Alright, so the next step will be to actually unscrew the undertail portion from the subframe. And that's done by removing the 4 screws located here. And they can be accessed from the bottom. I will do one on each side. And then the remaining 2 while supporting the undertail with my hand. Now your undertail assembly is ready to come down. It is still held in by wires to your equipment on the fender. Now we'll need to take care of disconnecting all that. Now we will need to disconnect the wiring that leads to all the equipment, electrical equipment on your fender and undertail. This is the main taillight plug. You can pry up on the tab and unsnap it. And this is the plug for the rest of the electrical equipment on there. Pry up on it, remove it. Now the fender is free to come out, and we can put it off to the side and work on it off the bike. Okay, so now we will be swapping the old 08-09 undertail for the new 2010 and up undertail, along with our TST Industries Undertail closeout already installed on it. To do that, we will need to take off this piece of fairing right here. We need to take out the remaining 2 Phillips head screws. The fairing has a center snap. Make sure you're careful how you remove it. You don't want to damage that. Put that to the side. Now you will need to remove your tail light. Now the tricky part here is to get the wiring through, making sure that the connector doesn't get harmed. So you have to be very careful how you snake that through. To do it one portion at a time. And then taillight's free, any piece of fairing's free. As a side note, since you will be removing the undertail that has the fender on it and not replacing it with another fender, you are doing away with your signals, the ability to mount other signals on this part, and you're also doing away with a license plate mount. So we recommend installing a license plate bracket and either a integrated tail light or maybe some aftermarket signals. Alright, so now we will be installing the tail light on your new undertail. You will need to match this tab with this tab to the rear of it. Just like that. The tab on the undertail is actually a stop for the tab on the tail light. You align the screw holes and using all your existing hardware, you took off your original setup, just fasten it back up. Get it nice and snug. And now the tail light is good to go. You will now need to route the wire properly. The new undertail features routing clips. Now you will take the other piece of fairing and install that on your new undertail. You want to install the clip first and turn it around. You use the two screws to fasten it on. Take the wire from the taillight, put it in the last clip, do it like this. This just helps with the routing. Once you install this piece, it keeps the wire nice and flush to the bottom, makes it nice and neat inside your trunk compartment. We could take this now to the bike and start reinstalling it on the bike. Alright, so this is basically the start of the reassembly. You will need to put this wire into this hole here in the sub tray and then match up the 4 holes that hold on your undertail with the subframe and begin your reassembly. Alright, so the last thing that you will have to do with this old undertail and fender assembly is you will need to get this wire out of it along with this plug. This is the little harness that has the plugs for your signals. You will need to replace this portion of it on your bike because otherwise you won't be able to replace any signals on your bike. So to do this, we will remove these bolts here. And using a small flathead, you could pry this assembly apart here, undo the locking tabs, and slide your screwdriver in there. And if you turn it sideways, it'll unclip this whole undertail into 2 halves. You can now route this like so. you'll be able to gain access to this portion here. You can take the boot off of it and gain access to the plugs. Now these plugs are really easy to slip off. Take a flathead screwdriver, pry the tab gently, and they come right off. This last one is a little deeper in there. What you can do is pull on it, press on the locking tab that unlatches it. Now you will replace this on your bike. So you want to route it, kind of like you routed the wire for your taillight. Same hole in the sub tray. And now you'll be able to plug it back in the same location you unplugged it from. And you can also at this point plug in your taillight. And all that's left to do now here in the Undertail is basically route your wire for your signals and your license plate light here, so it's clipped in and out of the way, just like your taillight. You will use this to attach your integrated taillight or your aftermarket signals at some point. And now you're ready to reassemble the bike in the reverse order of disassembly.